review lending alternatives, or discuss starting your own business, we have the right people to listen and advise. Visit us at bankbv.com to get started today. Member FDIC.
Just all right. Hello. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
All right. How's everybody doing?
Good, good.
Good. All right. All right. Listen here. Thank everybody for tuning in. This is Chris Jackson with Street Therapy KC here in Kansas City, Missouri, KUAW Radio, sitting high atop the WEB Du Bois Learning Center. Today I'd like to talk about something that's coming up pretty soon. But before I get into that, I want to give the phone number 816 599 6893, 816 599 6893, or KUAW.org. Like, share, and excuse me, like and share it, and send the information out to someone. But like I said, today we're talking about voting, and I got a few people that I joined on the panel today. In studio here with me, I have Candace to my right. Hello.
Hello.
And I got Marshonda right in front of me. Hello. And I got Mr. Nimrod Chappell on the deal there.
Hello.
On the satellite. And we have Mrs. Denise Lieberman or Lieberman?
Lieberman.
Lieberman. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Listen, thank you for being here with us. All right, so we're talking about voting here. You know, we got the vote coming up in the November election in what, about 50 some odd days coming up. Let us share a little light on what what we're expecting, and what should we be geared toward as far as getting prepared for the vote, and going into this vote. What are some of the things that we need to see or do or get ready for? Maybe you guys can touch on that, Mr. Chappell or Mrs. Lieberman.
Sure, sure. You know, and I may just touch on a historical perspective. I have to tell you that this election, like no other, will determine how America and how Missouri will move into the future. We have used a lot of time in the past making sure that people have a better understanding about what the issues are in an election. Right now, the NAACP and so many organizations, including those that we're in coalition with, are working to ensure that people understand how to vote and how to vote absentee. So we're going to be sure and talk about that. Some of the issues that we're also going to talk about are saying no to Amendment 3, because according to the NAACP, we would tell you this is all about politicians retaining power, and there's an ugly racial contingent that dates back to Dred Scott days, where they don't want to count black people, they don't want to count brown people, and they are the party that is pushing this issue. There's a whole mindset that certain people shouldn't get to participate in democracy. We are totally against that. I think that there are other issues that we need to consider, but most importantly are looking at those elections that are happening within the state and on the federal level and making sure that we get our voice heard. The only way to do that as a citizen is to ensure that your vote counts. And so Mrs. Lieberman is going to talk to us about that. Denise, you want to tell them about it?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, President Chappell, because what you have said rings so true. Everybody deserves to have a voice, and your vote is your voice in our community, in our society, in our government. It is how we hold our elected officials accountable. It is how we organize to make change in our communities. And at the most basic level, it is how we exercise control and self-determination over our own destinies and over our own future. And so when the right to vote is denied or abridged for anybody in our community, it is a denial of basic human dignity. All people have a right to have a say in their own destinies. And that is why we fight so hard to protect the right to vote. And that is why we will ensure a robust election protection effort in Missouri for these upcoming November elections. And I want to tell you this, the election protection hotline is live right now. We have attorneys trained to take your call right now in real time if you have any questions about your right to vote, or if anybody is telling you that there are some barriers to you being able to exercise your voice.
Yeah.
Just call us at 866 our vote, 866-687-8683. And I'll tell you another thing, it's not too early to start planning now. Make sure your voice is heard. Make a plan. Decide whether you are going to need to get a ballot by mail. Determine whether you might be able to vote absentee in person at your local election office before Election Day. Or make a decision on whether you intend to go vote at your polling place on Election Day, and make sure your registration is up to date and you know where that polling place is.
Absolutely, absolutely. For some of us in the studio here, talk a little bit about vote. What does vote mean for you, Candace and Marshawn?
For me specifically, I'll be turning 18 October 3rd, so this will be my first time ever voting.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a really exciting experience. I'm really honored that I get to vote. I think a lot of people my age don't take it as seriously, but I'm really into politics. I stay on top of all of this stuff, so for me, it's everything, especially in a time where there's so much hate and so much divide in the world.
Yeah.
For me to vote November 3rd is everything for me. So
Absolutely. Miss Candace.
For me, well, one, I was raised by my grandmother who was 87 years old. So I was raised by a woman who was not able to vote. So as soon as I hit 18, it was not an option in my household. It is still not an option. My grandmother still calls me because I still use her address, and she tells me where I need to go vote. But the funny thing was, this last election, I actually had to help my grandmother and try and kind of make a decision on who to vote for when it came to local people.
Yeah, that's important as well. Yeah, local is important as well. I mean, we had before Sheriff Darrell Forte got reelected as the sheriff, he was on this show, and there were some people that, to be honest, really wasn't going to vote for him, and because of him just being able to share some of his experience and some of what he had to go through as far as his journey before going into Mr. Chapel, you were on the line as well. He actually won some votes because of that, and it's easy for us to kind of be uneducated on certain things and not really, I guess, as Marshawn said, take it as serious as it really was. But we never know that maybe 5 or 6, maybe 10 people that voted probably could have gotten him to office. That's how serious it is.
Right.
Mrs. Candace, Mrs. Denise, how serious is that? Can you hear me?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please?
How serious is that? And I'm gonna elaborate on that a little bit. We've been looking at like voting suppression. We've looked at a lot of times, even down in Atlanta, where they had I think it was over 200,000 people that were purged off of the vote. Their vote was basically stolen. So that right there tells me that there is it's important, but it's also a orchestrated attempt to kind of sway it either way. What are your thoughts about that?
I agree 100%. Since the dawn of this country, we have not had a true democracy. There have always been attempts to keep certain voices down. Yeah. And throughout our nation's history, as President Chappell said, it has been voters of color whose voices have been left out of their conversation about their own lives and their own rights and their own powers. But what we also know from history is that every attempt to stifle these voices has been met by resistance.
That's right.
And people have fought back, demanded their rights, and insisted on being able to cast a ballot. That's one reason why I am in court right now with the NAACP fighting parts of Missouri's voting laws that require people to have to go in person and find a notary to return their ballots by mail in the middle of a pandemic. That creates hurdles, it creates barriers, and we know that communities of color have been hardest hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, and will also be hardest hit by requirements to go out and find a notary during business hours in the middle of the day. These are the same communities that make up the majority of our essential workers. These are the same communities that are going to be challenged to have to go to a place of business and find a notary. And that is precisely why we are in court right now, literally this week, to ensure that no voter is denied their access to their fundamental right to vote.
Yeah. That's very important. I mean, that like you said earlier, Mr. Denise, that is your voice. Your vote is your voice. And oftentimes, it's, when we say, my vote doesn't count, I'm not going to vote. What good does it matter? It's really not that important and whatnot. But a no vote in at one area is a vote in some other place.
Right.
So where you say I'm not going to vote for X, you're just by pure happenstance you're voting for Y.
And when I hear people say that, I always bring up the fact of the matter of, because I'm a bail bondsman, and I know a lot of people complain about our judges. And I tell them, but you don't even vote. What does that have to do with anything? Yeah. They're listed on the ballot every year. Yeah. Every year. I feel like there's a lot of uneducated information. Not uneducated, but misinformed information that is given to us. And because, we just go ahead and accept it, because we really don't see what our fight is for and the purpose. So we don't really look into it. We got a lot of people thinking, oh, I'm a felon, I can't vote. Right. Which is partially true and partially not true. Right.
Yep. Once you're off paper, you are eligible to register to vote.
And a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, and that's why we really want to encourage people to call 866-OUR-VOTE with any questions at all, because you are so right. Knowledge is your power here. Right. And with that knowledge, you can exercise your voice. And keep in mind that the vote is not only your voice individually, but it's a way that we collectively make change and fight for social justice. And so all of these other issues that we care about, access to health care, access to education, criminal justice reform, policing reform, all of that is addressed when we collectively come together and exercise our vote. I live in St. Louis, and here in St. Louis, after people took to the streets, after Mike Brown was killed, they organized and they registered people to vote. And several years later, what happened? We voted out a 30-year incumbent prosecutor and elected St. Louis County's first African-American prosecutor. Yeah. Has gone about criminal justice reform in a different way.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's good. That's what voting does for you. And voting is really one piece of the pie. We know that there's a whole lot of different factors. There's community involvement. There's a lot of different things. There's really the fact of really just sitting there getting the information that we need. As Candace just said, we oftentimes we don't know. And to be honest, sometimes, granted, we have information right there at our fingertips, but if we don't have people coming in and say, hey man, this is this, and this, because it's a lot. It's a lot when you're trying to figure out, who's a Republican, Democrat, liberal, and then you got, okay, well, that's that. Who the judge is? The judge is this, and then who's that?
I think the confusing part of it is because for so long we have been told to vote one party and one party only.
Straight ticket.
And sometimes I learned very quickly that is not always the case.
Everybody ain't for you.
Yeah, everybody's not. It's not for you. A lot of us may live next door to each other, but a lot of us don't live the same situation.
Absolutely.
And the reason why I say that, because I'm a business owner. So taxes hit me harder than people. I'm a business owner without kids. I don't have dependents, anything. So taxes hit me harder than certain people. And I know a lot of people will lean towards the person who is, not going to try to help the lower class and then the upper class, but everybody forget about us people right here who's on the line of middle class and almost upper class, because we get hit pretty hard. I don't even think they gave us a class yet.
Absolutely.
We just out there swinging.
Well, and my next question is for Marsana. By you being 17, you know, by this being your first year being able to vote, I know some of your friends are probably around your age, a little higher, a little lower. What are the conversations like with that? You know, for them about to vote, is the excitement there, or is just like, you know, whatever?
Well, I surround myself with people who are like me. So my closest friends, we all take it very seriously. Like, we are involved in things at school, trying to get things moved. We work with the government teachers to help pass out the government registration stuff.
Right.
But I would say people who are just school friends, I mean, they don't care at all. Some of them think it's funny to vote for certain people just because they think, oh, that's going to be funny. Like, they're going to they've expressed they would want to waste their vote and think that it's funny. So, I mean, most of the talk, like I said, with my closest friends is all serious talk. Like, what do we need? I mean, we're 18 now, but this is going to be the person for the next 4 years. Absolutely. Some of us might be starting families in that time. So you have to really think about it. So, I mean, it's different depending on how people are.
Do you think
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Coming out of, she's fresh out of school, so this is a question I really want to know. Do you think that they have prepared you to get out here, as far as school-wise, to get out here and vote properly in school?
I would actually say no. As far as like education-wise, I took AP Government last year, so like the college course. So I still don't even think within that class, and it's supposed to be, you know, higher level, advanced. I don't even think that they taught you everything that you should know in order to make a educated guess for yourself. It's kind of, they give you like a little wishy-washy type of information about it, but they don't go in depth about it. They don't really tell you much how to do it. The best thing my school does is pass out the things when you're like 17 and a half. You fill out the registration thing, and that's it.
And I find that odd because I'm 36 years old, and you know what we did when I was in school? We all went to the gym and we did mock voting on the day to vote. And I remember that like it was yesterday. I remember going into the gym, them explaining everything, telling us how to vote, and I went to public school. So it amazes me how just something that simple they took out, but that is so important.
It is. Yeah, it gets you prepared. You know, I mean, you know, when you talk about just understanding, you know, how to vote and who to vote for and how the process work. When you talk about, you know, in school economics, you know, how does economics work? When you talk about home ec, how to cook food the right way and not burn up the kitchen, you know, you know, a lot of those things, you know, and you know, just like you're an entrepreneur. You know, and those are things that aren't really taught in school. And I don't know if it's because it's you know, the pre-programming of the public school or the school system, or is the fact that, you know, they don't really understand how they do it,
I don't think they got home economic teachers like we used to have.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, sir.
So, and talking about what else is not shared, it used to be, you know, pre-pandemic, you just either go down to the ballot, to the election authority, and get a ballot, fill it out. Even if you were going to be out of town, you get an absentee ballot, and you could do that before. Now there's been an introduction of another voting option. Denise Lieberman has chaired the litigation that's going against Jay Ashcroft right now, who wants everybody to risk their lives voting in a pandemic, and has spurred like a whole bunch of misinformation out there about how to even vote. So, I mean, it's interesting that we're talking about like some of these basic things, whether it's home ec, entrepreneurism, how to participate in your government. If we have just a second, if Denise could clear that up for us so that everybody knows the best way to make sure you get your vote this time.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. So many people are confused about voting in the middle of this pandemic, and so it's really important to make a plan. And there's really just a few steps to that. One, decide whether you are going to vote by mail or go vote in person. If you're going to vote by mail, decide what kind of ballot is right for you. Absentee ballots are easier to get and they're easier to return, but you have to have a reason. If you don't qualify for one of those reasons, all voters in Missouri can vote by mail in 2020 because of the pandemic, but those no excuse mail-in ballots have to be notarized and can only be returned by United States mail. And I know people are really concerned about some of these mail delays. So check and see if you meet one of the reasons to vote absentee, and there's a lot of them. Anybody who is confined due to illness or disability or serving as a caretaker, they can vote absentee with no notary required. And anybody who falls into an at-risk category for COVID-19 can vote absentee, no notary required, and that includes any voter over the age of 65. That includes any voter with diabetes or any voter with liver disease, any voter with kidney disease who's on dialysis, any voter who's immunocompromised, any voter with heart disease, any voter in a long-term care facility, as well as any voter over 65. And those people do not need a notary. And you have the choice of sending that ballot in the mail or dropping it off. Also, if you can vote absentee, you can also go do that in person at your local clerk's office before Election Day, starting on September 22nd. You can avoid the crowds at the polls on Election Day. And so knowing those things ahead of time and figuring out how you want to vote can really help ensure that your vote will be counted. And finally, don't forget to check your voter registration, because if you've moved, you're going to have to update it by October 7th. And the good news is in Missouri, you can do that online.
Okay, I have a question about that, because I know a lot of people were getting turned away. I don't know which election it was, because they were on the list to vote at that place. So can't you just still vote there and just have them pull your registration from somewhere else?
Unfortunately, in Missouri, Missouri has a lot of outdated voting rules, and that's one of the reasons that organizations like the NAACP have been fighting so hard to change some of Missouri's voting laws. In Missouri, you have to vote at the polling place that serves your address. Now, if you have moved within your same county, you can update your address at the polling place and still cast a ballot. But if you have moved, go ahead and update that registration before October 7th so that you don't have any problems at the polling place. The last thing anybody wants is to show up at the polls and find out their name's not on the list. If you do, call us. We'll help you. We will help you right then and there at the polling place. You won't have to leave without getting help. Call 866-OUR-VOTE. But you can avoid that by making sure your registration's up to date by updating it online at sos.mo.gov by October 7th.
That's good. That's good. Now, thank you for that. So for someone that needs to maybe check their voting status to see if they're still still registered, just had not moved and had not changed locations. Has that been something that has happened in the past, that someone actually had thought that they were had voting status, and for whatever reason they were not able to vote?
It happens all the time. And the problem is that we have a registration deadline of October 7th. And so if you don't update that registration by October 7th, if you don't register to vote by October 7th, you will not be able to vote on November 3rd.
Wow.
So please go to the Secretary of State's website at sos.mo.gov, or you can also check on your own local election authority. If you are in Boone County, that'd be the Boone County Clerk's Office. If you
Go ahead, you're fine. Oh, okay.
We will also look up your registration for you if you call us at 866-OUR-VOTE.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's good information. I think this as all the other elections for president have been serious, I think this one also is serious. I think right now that we're at a pretty pivotal point right now, and if we don't do something that propels us in the right direction, I think we have the tendency to kind of go backwards. And I think Marshana said it best just a moment ago. She talked just when you elect somebody, it's for 4 years. But I think a lot of times that, when we elect people, we look for what they can do for us right now. But if you don't think about, if you vote for them right now, the things that they may put into place right now in the next, 2 to 3 to 4 years, that has a tendency, whether it's a Supreme Court judge or whether it's whomever they choose to elect while they're in that office, that has 20, 30, 40, 50-year span. Am I right?
That's right. And I'll tell you right now, just from a civil rights perspective, who would have thought that we would ever be a part of a country that's putting little kids into cages just based on their color, breaking up families, claiming that there are false issues to divide the public, right? I mean, and some of these, there are too many to name, but anybody that says that COVID is not real is crazy as hell.
Man, they can't come
not allowed. You cannot do that. You can't suggest that people inject themselves with cleanser like Clorox. That's poison. You're going to kill people. Or having people taking medication that's not doctor approved. And I'll tell you what, as long as we are on the leading edge of COVID, this election is the best time that we ensure that those politicians, whether they are local, part of our city council, our mayor, whether they are in charge of the state like Governor Parson, or whether they are actually in charge of the country like President Trump, that they are held accountable for the decisions that they've made and the ramifications that those have had on our community. We are literally dying because they don't care. They have neglected us. They didn't have a plan to start with, and all of that has led to systemic racism, which is too heavy of a load to bear. We were already suffering from economic outcomes that aren't proportionate to other portions of the society, to educational outcomes that are completely inappropriate, healthcare applications that look at us as if we are in a third world country. We're the richest country in the world. And right now we are dying because they don't have a plan. And when I talked to them just weeks ago, they still didn't have a plan. You know, it's ridiculous. I'm going to use my vote to hold people accountable and suggest that other people do the same thing.
Yes, absolutely, man. Listen, well said as always. We got about 8 minutes here in the set before we reset the show for the last 10 minutes, Mr. Chaplin and Mrs. Lieberman. Let me ask you a question real quick. I know the answer, but I want to hear from you. I want the viewers to hear from you guys. Is it okay to vote twice as a person? What are some of the ramifications if you do vote twice? What happens with that?
Tell them, Denise.
We hear so much rhetoric. It's so much misinformation coming from so many sources, unfortunately coming literally from the highest office in the land. Yes, and we know that there are so many precautions in place that prevent people from being able to vote twice. You can't vote twice. We all know you can't vote twice. We know it's a serious crime to vote twice. And we also know that the processes we have set up, they track your ballots. You cannot vote twice. You can't get a ballot if you go to a polling place and you're not on the voter rolls. You can't get a ballot if you go to a polling place and you've already submitted an absentee or a mail-in ballot. You can't get a ballot if you haven't registered to vote. It is really, really nearly impossible to vote twice. And we know that people don't do it. And the truth of the matter is that people simply want to exercise their vote once. That's right. And what we know is that literally millions of people face barriers every day to being able to exercise their right. So don't believe the hype. Don't listen to the misinformation that is out there. Voting is safe and secure and reliable, and there are numerous precautions in place that help ensure that everybody's vote counts.
Absolutely.
What about people who write? We have to clear this up because a lot of people. I did this one year. I'm not even gonna sit here and lie like I didn't. I wrote my own name in there because I didn't want to vote for either president. So I just was like, well, I'll be a better president. But then I was informed that that's not the best thing to do either.
No. And you were absolutely right. You know, the suspicion that alerted in your heart was the right one. And you, I have no doubt, would be a wonderful candidate. But we need to find your right race. We're voting for president is one or the other. You know, and whoever's running for, there are multiple candidates out there, but you want to make your vote count. And so, as much as we don't want a bad person to have it, sometimes we need to pick a person who lines up with us on certain issues, like should all people get to vote? Yeah, that's a box. Should all people be treated with dignity? Yeah, that's a box. Are we going to continue to lock up kids in cages? No, that's a box for me, right? So I think that we have to look at the issues for the people and pick the best candidate that lines up with your morals and your values to ensure that not only yourself and your family and your community, but in my heart, we as a people get to continue on.
Absolutely, and I think that oftentimes just every candidate's not going to have every single quality that we like or what that we typically agree with, but for the most part, the whole bulk of what we look to see in a candidate, I think that's what we should look for. We're not going to agree on every single thing, but if we can agree on the fundamental issues and the things that really help us and move our country forward. I mean, reparations, the whole nine, that's something that's been tossed around a few times, but those are things that we really need to deal with and everything. So before we go, I'd like to share your information real quick, if you wouldn't mind, Dr. Nimrod Chappell and Mrs. Denise Lieberman.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm Nimrod Chappell. I'll give you my cell phone, and people say I'm crazy for doing it all the time, but my cell phone is 816-309-5009. If you've got a civil rights issue, I am president of the Missouri State Conference of the NAACP, and we want to talk about it. Absolutely. Also, I'm in coalition, the NAACP. Denise Lieberman leads the voter work and voter protection efforts for the NAACP. Denise, give them the best contact information for us.
People who are interested in learning more about the Missouri Voter Protection Coalition can text MOVPC to 66866, and you'll get updates about all of the efforts to fight for the right to vote in Missouri, as well as links to our palm cards and toolkits and educational programs. And again, with any questions that you might have, please call 866-OUR-VOTE. You can also go to the website 866ourvote.org for more information about the rules in Missouri.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And listen, I like to touch base with you guys, a little closer to the election to kind of see where we are and maybe some other things that we can kind of talk about getting closer to the election. But listen, thank you so much. Thank you both for joining us on the show. We're going to go to a quick break here, and we'll reset the show and come back on the other side. Dr. Chappell, Mr. Lieberman, thank you so much. Y'all have a good one.
Hey, thank you, Chris. Look forward to being with you.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, this is Scatter. You might remember me from way back in the Zodiac days. Be sure and check us out. We're going to be here every day from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. It's old school.
So we're going to go ahead and go to a break.
Check me out on the internet, KUAW.org. For all you for sale Central Manualite people, want you to remember that in the 60s and the 70s, we had some good music. If you want to hear some of the Temptations, some of Smokey Robinson, some of the Tim Free, things that you don't get every day, DJ Scatter remembers he's going to have it for you.
Bank of Blue Valley is a proud sponsor of KUAW Radio. At Bank of Blue Valley, we believe that an understanding of financial value sets individuals up for a strong future. Whether you want to talk about checking and savings accounts, review lending alternatives, or discuss starting your own business, we have the right people to listen and advise. Visit us at bankbv.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You're listening to 98.5. This is KUAW, Kansas City, Missouri. Glad you're listening. Keep tuning to the new voice in Kansas City.
Hi, my name is Felania Johnson, and I'm a freshman at Purcell Academy of Fine and Performing Arts.
My name is Mayan Charity, and I'm a 7th grader at Lincoln College Preparatory.
STEM is a program about science, technology, engineering, and math. More girls our age should get more involved in the program because there's a shortage of black girls in STEM.
African American women make up just 2% of engineers. Roughly 1/3 of students of color express an interest in STEM. Most black women think that STEM is too challenging. We are sisters in STEM, and we are encouraging young black teens to join STEM.
If you're interested in more information, please contact Ina Montgomery at 816-866-6340.
Tycon Company, LLC, specializes in a wide range of construction services, which includes the removal and replacement of concrete curbs, sidewalk, driveway, and paving. They pride themselves.
Of course.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
All right, yeah, we hot.
We're back.
We are back. Yeah, so that's interesting you say that because that's something I've been thinking about as well. You know, what they gonna do?
Yeah, what y'all gonna do?
What y'all gonna do? So I guess kind of to wrap up, we got about a little over 10 minutes. So basically, they've talked about making sure that you're registered. Making sure that all the numbers and the information that they've given, talking about how we can connect to people, how we can get the word out, things like that. But really been an informed vote. I think that's one of the things that we, I mean, there's still some time to find out, what their policies are and things like that, and to get registered to vote. So what do y'all think about a little bit of the information that they were talking about?
I found it very helpful, but one thing I do think, for us, we felt as a people, because I used to do parole, for the federal government, and they are actually supposed to tell felons once they're off paper that they can vote. That is actually part of people's job, and for her to sit there and say that, and then a lot of us don't know. Like, it was a lot of information that I just heard from her that I had no idea.
Yeah, and if you are a felon, and if you have gone through that process, and you are, off papers or whatnot, and you are, kind of back into society and working and things like that. And I mean, if you have a strong conviction to vote, man, go register and vote.
Because you never know. It could be that one president that decides to take your charge and say this is no longer a felony. Sure. And that's why people got to understand. A lot of people say, oh, it don't matter. They don't hear us. They don't know. I bet a lot of people who got locked up for them crack laws didn't think nobody was going to hear they cry. And look what happened. We got one president that tried to do something good. And, I mean, this is what happened. But then this is what kills me. Like, a lot of y'all don't even realize how, when y'all see the statistics of this race voting more than this race, and then y'all see who they put in office, and then y'all see what happens. And then you was like, well, he's for that race anyways. But if you feel like that person was for our race, then why don't y'all go and try to make a difference?
Yeah, and I think a lot of the times that, just because we get somebody in office that we agree with and things like that, and they can be good for us and have all the traits and things like that we want, but just because they're in office doesn't mean that we can go on autopilot.
Right.
We get somebody in office and things like that. It's like, oh, we good. He's in there. And we go chill. No.
That's what we did. Yep.
Yeah.
And then what happens? We leave them to dry. We leave them out there to hang. I mean, then nothing. Like, that's what we. You want me to be honest? That's what we did to Obama. We put him in office, and it was like, y'all put him in office, but then y'all put him in office around a whole bunch of Republicans. Yeah. Like, y'all didn't understand the vote. To vote for who would support him. See, when y'all vote for a president, y'all got to vote for that cabinet as well, who's going to support that president. If you want that president in office and you want that president's that views and stuff to go through and pass, it's just not the president. And that's where I think our community kind of falls short. We like, oh, well, we're going to vote for the president. We don't think about the vice president. We don't think about the what's the defense
defense attorney,
Congress, none of them. We don't think about any of them. I just realized who the governor was when as I got older, all we thought about who was the president.
And that's what I talked to my son. He's 19. We were talking, and I was like, man, listen, the president's got 4 years. What we may have 8. I said, but he's only in there for a brief amount of time. There are 4-star generals. There are cabinets been there for 20, 30 years. You think, they have how they've been, how they've seen 10 different administrations come through there. You think that, but I said, but we still can, push policy and have him try to make change, have them to, be in our way. Because like I said, like you said, and I think that too, when President Obama got in there, we was like, Oh, we good. He in there. We got a black man. My president is black, you know. And he in there. And it's like, okay, well, that's fine. But
and Jay-Z kept telling y'all. Jay-Z was saying it after all the time. Like, y'all have to put other people to support him. And y'all just like, my president's black. No.
Yeah, he's important. He's important. What are your thoughts about kind of the wrap up there, Ms. Marshanda?
Kind of to piggyback off what you were saying, back to the whole school situation, they don't teach about anything other than the president running. Like, I mean, I would say my mom and stepdad are pretty educated when it comes to the voting stuff, which is where I get a lot of my information from. Yeah. But those small elections that are throughout the year,
that are local.
Yeah.
In your backyard.
People don't even know about them. We don't talk about them at school. They don't promote that to seniors who are of age to vote at school. So it's just all about being aware and knowing. Yeah. But I mean, I would definitely say the system is set up for us not to know what to do.
No, because remember that y'all remember what was it? Schoolhouse Rock? Mm-hmm. And you remember a bill is only a bill sitting on Capitol Hill?
I'm just a bill. We
following that, it also told you about it told you about the cabinet. So maybe we just need to go and just like, instead of doing commercials, we just play School Rock, something like, I don't know.
The dude name, I think his name was Yellow Man, if I'm not mistaken. He came out with that rap. And man, the rap was it was so important. They talked about the House representatives and the whole nine. And I think we played a little bit before here, but I mean that's what's important. Right. The president is doing what he's running the whole country. We need to run our city, and we have the ability to do it. We have the manpower to do it. I mean, they just play Black Lives Matter everywhere. So we got the passion. We got the passion, but we need to have that passion to be in.
Y'all know how I feel about Black Lives. Y'all painted in the middle of the street, right between the liquor store y'all opened up and the church y'all put on the opposite side. Like, how I'm supposed to make a decision when I'm going through something? Then I got to turn around and look at this, say my life matter.
Man, listen, but no, real talk, but it is critical, and like right now we're in a time where like we don't have any games to play. It is very serious. Mm-hmm. I mean, we look at police brutality, talking about police reform, and they say defund the police. We're like, what do you mean defund the police? But then all these different things, man. Or like right here, we look.
We gotta call it. Don't defend them. Make the police force all black. Become police officers. Start raising police officers. Start raising mayors. Start raising governors. Yeah. Instead of just my son's gonna be the next president. Yeah. Nah, man.
Let's be real for a second.
Yeah. That's I mean, that's true. It's a hey man, my son gonna be the next basketball player, which is fine. My son's the next rapper, which is fine. But hey, my son can be the next, senator. My son can be the next congressman. My son's taking an interest in city government and things like that. You know what? That's a good thing. Okay, now you understand that, but as you understand that, you inform your son, and we all have to get educated. My daughter's, third, fourth grade now, and we're going through the whole Zoom thing, man. I'm having to try to retrain my brain on certain stuff, and I was like, man, but. It's interesting. We all got to learn something a little different. Yeah. And if we don't, man, we're gonna drive and die. And I think the system right now is not for us. As they say, it's against us. But the thing about it is, like, we can't be against ourselves. Yeah. We got so much information on our cell phones, our laptops, our computers, and things. We got information at our fingertips, and if we don't use that, then we fail ourselves.
Mm-hmm. But that's just like what Ellington, Brandon, they did everything in their power to try not to put him in office. And we did everything in our power to put him in office. And that right there tells you how powerful your vote and your voice is. Yeah.
What's his name? Okay. All right, we got a caller here real quick. We're going to get to you. How you doing, sir? What's your name? Where you calling from? Are you there? Caller, are you there on the phone? Did you drop? Caller, can you hear me?
You can.
No. All right.
I heard a phone moving.
All right, caller. Listen here, man. If you can get a little closer to the phone, we can't hear you if you got a bad connection. Are you there? I think I hear him breathing.
Yeah.
All right, well, listen here, man. Jump in if you can, whenever you can, talk a little louder so we can hear you. But no, that's true. I'll jump back into the show here, but that's true. It's very important. It's very critical that we do that, and I think it's super dope that this is your first year being able to vote, and you're man. And I'm glad that you want to vote.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That is awesome.
I'm glad that you want to vote. Man.
My grandma was like, "You need to wake up." I'm like, "Where are we going?" And she's like, "To vote." I'm like, "Oh Lord, bless somebody." Oh my, because I turned, I'm October baby, so she was, and I actually turned 18 when I was in high school. So I was like, "Well, I don't get to go to school, so let's go vote." And then I get there, and I'm like, thankful that they did do the little mock voting thing in there, because like I said, my grandma's older. She's in there, and this is by the time she wants to be fancy at this time. I'm going to go over here and vote over. No, you need to come vote like you've been voting for the last umpteen million years.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, but that is, and oftentimes,
it's awesome.
Oftentimes, anybody's out there, your vote does matter. Don't let anybody tell you that your vote doesn't matter. In essence, I think if they're telling you that your vote don't matter, it's almost like you're stealing your vote from you. A vote that you don't give can be a vote that somebody else gets. That you may not even like or may not even agree with their policies. So you say, I don't want to vote for them. Or as you said earlier, Candace, is vote for the lesser of the two evils. You're gonna vote either way. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of times is when we vote for the big people, quote unquote, and if we forget about the little people. The little people is what makes this country go around. It's the small businesses. It's the small entrepreneurs. It's the families and things like that. It's it's the schooling and things like that. It's oftentimes it's those people that make this country go around, and those people are oftentimes forgotten. But it's the volunteers, what I'm saying, that people don't even pay attention to, and oftentimes when those people are forgotten, it's harder on them. But then they still have a heart to serve, and I think
awesome.
and yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what we really need to focus on, man. Is focus on your city. We should focus on Kansas City, Missouri. Y'all focus on KCK, but we can still come together. Focus on Atlanta, focus on Texas, things like that. But that's fine. But then, the overall picture, we can't have one person to fix every single thing. You have the ability within yourself. Anybody listening, you have the ability within yourself to fix something, man. Fix yourself, fix your family, fix your community, and fix this world, man. And let's get up off this nonsense.
And if you don't like what's going on, do something to change it. When I say do something to change it, I mean, like, if you don't like the laws, try to become somebody who changes the law. If you don't like the police, raise some kids that can be on the police force to change it. We just sit around and try to complain about stuff, and then, I don't disagree with the riots to a certain extent, but we can riot, we can do all that, we can yell, but if we don't put the effort to change it, it's never going to change. Nobody's never going to hear our voice, because we have to put people in those positions for them to hear us.
Absolutely.
And I almost feel like sometimes people are just okay with it. Like they're like, okay, we're oppressed. This systematic racism is this way, but they're just like, they're not okay with it, but they're just okay with it. Because like you said, if you have an issue with something, you can raise a kid who wants to become a police officer or become a governor or become a senator or anything. So I think people just really, if 2020 hasn't taught people anything, I think it should have taught them, take it into your own hands, take matters into your own hands, because things are not going to change with everybody just saying, oh well, it can get better, well we're just in this situation. Like, take yourself out of that situation, do better for yourself and for the generations to come. I feel like
100%.
Forrest Tyson has online here, we've got to figure out a way to convince the 1.7 million registered voters to vote that didn't vote in the last election.
That is true.
Yes, sir.
But I feel like, as what she said, a lot of people didn't know how to do a lot of the voting. should I say, they didn't check the boxes like he said. A lot of people was just like, oh, this person's not for me and this person's not for me, so they just didn't vote. But if you find 3 things that you like about this person, then just go with that person, because that's 3 things that you could change, that you want to change.
Yeah. You know, and you look at that, and we said, thanks, Tyson, Mr. Tyson, appreciate that, man. But yeah, when you look at that in hindsight, you know, we sit there and you talk about complain. You know, we complain because I don't like this person, I don't like their values. But then again, we complain about, I don't like the way this thing is going. It's like, well, wait a minute. You complaining about you don't like, you know, this person and their politics and things like that. You know, but then he's like, well, you complaining about your society and your social ills. Like, well, wait a minute. You can't have it both ways. Either you're complaining about the person. Okay, if that's the case, you don't like them. If you don't like them, then you change it.
That's like my friend tells me, this friend, he goes, oh, this city is just so trash. It's always trash everywhere and this and that. And then I look up, he throws something out the window.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I mean, you got to do something to change it. If you don't like it, then change it.
Yeah. There was a quote that I heard earlier, and I can't get it right, so I'm not going to say it and jack it up. So I won't even say it. I was trying to think about it, but I won't even say it. But yeah, you know, change. If you can't change anything, man, just change yourself.
Yeah.
You know, if you feel like you can't change, you know, if you feel like you can't change the circumstances or whatever case, just change yourself. And I think a lot of time when you change yourself, man, it changes your outlook on things. Because if you sit there and you say, you know what, everything is doom and gloom, you know, and you know the city's trash, or you know, or don't nobody care about me, don't nobody love me, and this, you know, you gotta let yourself, man. You gotta care about yourself. And when you change the way you see the world, man, I think oftentimes it gives you a different perspective. And I think you look at it like this: if you change the way you see the world, you believe that the world sees you differently. Because you built your self-esteem up, you know what I mean? So that's my takeaway on the whole thing. But listen, I appreciate everybody that was here on today, and so go vote, man. November 3rd. November 3rd. Yeah. Go vote, man, and register. You guys got the information. Check it out. Share it. Send it. Like it. Love it, man. And let's get off of this thing. Yeah. So listen, for Street Therapy KC, you guys have tuned in again, and we definitely appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you for my guests, Mrs. Candace, Ms. Marshonda, and Mr. Nimrod Chappell, and Ms. Denise Lieberman. Thank y'all so much for being here, and the brother that was on the phone, man. Listen, just drop us a line, man. Listen, thank y'all. God bless y'all, and we appreciate you guys once again. We'll catch you next time. Take care. Have a good week, and God bless.
All right.